Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're in the world today. I'm very excited to bring on today one of the most iconic comedians of today. Now, I spoke to a few people about him being on this show, and it was asked, why would you have this guy on High Wall Clean? Now, he does smoke weed, but I do believe that he is clean in his own way. He never had a problem with meth or never had a problem with heroin or any of those drugs which tear most people's lives apart. Now, I'm not the person who tells people not to use drugs. High Wall Clean is a show of hope. It's a show of success and excitement through people's stories. Harm reduction isn't something that I'm opposed to, but for me, clean and sober off of all mood or mind altering chemicals is the only solution that works for me. Marijuana works for some. How do you tell an 83-year-old guy to stop smoking weed? Many of us grow up watching Cheech and Chong, and I think that you're going to find that he has a brilliant mind, far from his character man in Up in Smoke. Now, stay tuned for a loving, caring, and a gentle individual that genuinely wants to help people. He has a humility about him that isn't seen in many who are in the entertainment industry and as successful and famous as Tommy Chong. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Take back your story. Show the world you're the best. Bring light instead of darkness. Give to the world and nothing less. Darkness, we find the light. Clarity soon in sight. Together we can make the fight. Darkness, we find the light.
Hi, I am High. This is Eric McCoy, and this is the show of Highness, High Wall Clean. Laughter, and for those that have watched our shows way back when I first started, may have seen the episode Let's Get High, which I go into an absolutely insane laughing episode to show how contagious laughter is and how good it actually feels. Laughter is my greatest highness of today. And I used to think of getting high as requiring a drug to do this, but after getting clean, something dawned on me. And what we called our drugs of abuse kind of became funny to me. Even though meth was my drug of choice, I used and I abused everything imaginable. Now, meth, as we refer to, what basically is the same thing that comes out my ass. Hey, man, dude, I'm going to score some shit. We don't even use highness with meth because I'm tweaking balls. What about heroin? Hey, man, I wanted to know if I could smoke your junk. You have cocaine that you call nose candy with your heroin for a speedball, and you tell your dealer hey, man, if I could put your blow in your junk. The marijuana, and again, I'm sorry to say that. What was I saying?
One of my favorite drugs, and I will say this real quick, was LSD, but even that has a strange name as simple as acid. Although I will say Trump would have been and probably would have agreed to take acid to clean ourselves of COVID. He would have been proud, right? As we could confirm that we cleaned our insides to rid ourselves of COVID with acid, but of course, he referred to as bleach. And of course, I can go on. But I do want to introduce my guest. In my other show that he was on, Walk a Mile in My Shoes, I mentioned that he needs no introduction, and not being stupid like everyone who says that. I'm not actually going to give one. And
Oops.
so I have Tommy Chong here, and Tommy, I wanted to know how exciting your career has been in working with Cheech and Up in Smoke, numerous other movies, working on that 70s show, getting into music, stand-up comedy, and of course, reuniting with Cheech for your live shows. And again, I apologize for not giving any introduction since
problem.
people know who you are. Tommy, how you doing, man?
Spoken like a true meth head.
Yeah, it's meth was definitely a stupid thing.
I met a guy in prison, and he amazed. He always, it was fascinating because he had a little hitch in his get along when he walked the track. He had this little hitch, and I finally asked him. I says, "What's with that little walk you do?" And he says, "Well, I broke my back." I said, "Oh, how'd you do that?" I thought he was going to say some sport or something. He said he was high on meth, and he was a floor cleaner. He cleaned floors. Well, he worked something like 3 days straight without sleep, and he had this floor sander, floor cleaner, whatever. And so his back was sore, obviously, for that.
Yeah.
So he had his buddy crack his back.
Oh, Jesus.
His buddy's like 300 pounds. So he broke his back.
Wow.
He literally broke his back, and that's why he had that little hitch in his get along. And no, I shouldn't have laughed, but when he told me that he was high on meth when that happened, I couldn't stop it. I had to chuckle, because that's the dangers of drugs.
Absolutely. I mean, the typical meth guy is, we tear shit apart just so we can put it back together.
And you never can put it back together.
I had the funniest story, right? When I was and this is actually dangerous, but I was driving one night, and I was waiting on my dealer and stuff, and I was so exhausted. I'd been up for like 4 days, and I crashed my car 3 times in one night, and it was insane. And the last time I crashed it, I busted my engine mount and broke my oil pan. And so I ended up getting it towed up to this place that I was staying. And, and I was like, okay, I'm going to fix this. I get a new oil pan, right? Jack the thing up, and I'm looking at like, shit, okay, I got all these bolts, and I'm taking things apart, I got all this stuff, and I finally get it down, right? And I put it back up, and I'm putting it back and screwing it in, and I ended up having like 5 bolts left and extra parts, right? and what typical meth addicts do is we just throw them in our trunk.
Yeah.
And then we just, and that thing leaked oil.
And you really described a mess life.
Oh yeah.
Because you lose the nuts and bolts, and next thing you know, you're leaking, and next thing you know, you're in jail for for what? I don't know, cleaning floors. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's doing crazy. Stupid stuff,
It's crazy. Yeah, I was in jail with meth heads and Oxycontin dealers, druggists that got caught selling opioids illegally. The jail was full of them, and there were 7 doctors when I was in there for various crimes. I one time I was walking across the field, and I was limping, and by the time I got to my cell, I had been told by at least 4 different doctors what was wrong with me, and they were all right. I had gout.
Really?
Yeah, and so I had to go to the infirmary and get, and of course what they do in prison, they just give you drugs.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. Anything wrong with you, they don't look at it or anything, just hand you the drugs. And so I took one pill cured me, and then I had a whole mess of pills. And so the junkie across the cell block from me, he come up and do you mind? Can I have the rest of those those that medicine, that powerful medicine that keeps you from getting gout, or helps you from gout? Yeah, and he just used it as a high. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What people will do to get high.
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. I mean, we have people, drinking like the hand cleaners and all in rehabs. I mean, I work in a rehab.
Oh
And,
yeah.
I do teaching, and then I do counseling, with clients and stuff. And
Sure.
we used to find that all the time. I mean, people take hand cleaners and drink it for the alcohol,
Yeah.
burn their inside.
You never know. That's why when Trump started going for the bleach,
Yeah.
And when I looked at his face, he's serious.
I know.
Because Trump was so crazy that half the time you think, is he really serious? But he was serious.
I know.
Oh, it's incredible. I'm having so much fun now watching the Democrats, because everybody thinks Biden's stupid. They think he's, they believe that Trump lies, that he's lazy and everything else. Right now, the Democrats are the smartest they've ever been. I've never seen them more on the ball than now, and I'm the only guy in my household that I can say it to you because we're on the Zoom. Nobody wants to hear what I see, and what it is. The Democrats are hogging the news cycle, hogging it to death. I mean, and they really got nothing to hog it with except they make it up. Joe Manchin might not vote, or that other girl. They're stopping everything. It just cracks me up because when I try to explain this to my wife, I says, and my wife is like negative. Oh, they're not going to pass it. Oh, Biden's just going to fail. Oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, they're going on and on and on. And when you look at the reality, they're talking about, should we pass a $3.5 trillion package, or should we just settle for a $1.5 trillion package?
I mean, I can't even comprehend $1 trillion.
It's insane. And then when you look at where we are now, no war. There's not a war going on. First time in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm 83. Yeah. First time in my lifetime we're not at war with anybody. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, there really is no Cold War. They're trying to ginny one up with China, but forget it. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Except the war on drugs.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, someone is going to do a book about the war in Afghanistan, and that's what they're going to call it, War on Drugs, because everybody that goes over to Afghanistan, they get introduced to every hard drug there is on the planet, because that's where it grows.
Well, that was like the Vietnam War and all the heroin out there.
Everything, heroin, pot, hash, everything you can name. And that's what was going on in Afghanistan. That's where they grow the poppies. that's the drug capital of the world. And all America did really was finance the schooling, and everything of our people that are on our side. Yeah. But when you, America right now, and I love the problems that we have. One of the problems, the restaurants can't find cheap labor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They think, we can't get the help. Fuck that. It's not help. It's cheap labor.
Yep. Yep.
Start paying some decent wages,
Yep.
and you'll get all the cheap labor you can get.
Yep.
You know, I don't know
Well,
what they pay you pay people at Starbucks, but I don't see Starbucks complaining. You know,
nah, I think they were like $25 an hour or something. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, that's what you got to pay people.
I mean, it's
You gotta
insane. You know, it's insane. Like we sit and we all the homeless and, all this type of stuff. And, you got people out there that, work, but they can't afford a place to live. I mean, some of these people are actually employed that are homeless.
Yeah, yeah, they can't afford to live.
Yeah.
They can't afford. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the guy, JP, the guy that has that vodka, no, not vodka, tequila, big rich guy. It was the guy with the hair thing, Aloha thing. He was homeless before when he was starting his business. He couldn't afford rent, and so he lived in his car, and he joined a gym. And so he had a place, he parked by the gym, and he lived in his car until he started making a decent wage. Yeah, housing is incredible. I got a plan that I'm slowly implementing, and it's a movie. I want to do a movie of everything, but definitely I want to do a docudrama / comedy of the immigrants coming from South America, because oh man, that's right. And then I talk about homeless. I want to do what I want to do is designate the homeless areas, the trouble areas, as a movie set, and hire everybody in there as actors or technicians or whatever their thing is, and then just use the homeless area as a set where they come to shoot. We'll shoot like a docudrama of their situation,
and they get paid.
But they don't live there. It's a movie set, and then when we're finished shooting, we clean it up, because by then all the actors have a regular place. They don't have to be homeless. No, I know your thing, and you're right. There's a lot of people, they don't have to be homeless. See, back in the day, when they had hobos. We've always had homeless, by the way. There's never been a time in our history we've never had homeless. We always had people camping out. The Native Americans, they were homeless. They were nomads. Right. But back in the day, they were called hobos. And the violence was, that was one thing that they did. Do you remember when the MMA fighting first started?
Yeah.
It started with fighting hobos, having homeless guys fight each other on TV. Yeah,
it's like Fight Club, like Fight Club,
like Fight Club. They would get a couple of, and then they would film it, and it was so popular, it morphed into the MMA. Yeah. So we've always had homeless.
That's kind of fucked up, though.
well, that's it. That's the whole point. That's the danger of being on the street, because you have no protection. So you have to use your wits. Yep. I've been kind of studying the homeless, and not professionally yet, but my daughter, my son and my daughter were taking a plane somewhere, and we were early, and they all wanted to get to the airport early or whatever. Anyway, we stopped, got something from the taco truck, and then there's a park nearby. Let's go park there and eat our lunch. Filled with homeless tents, and they're all around, kind of around the park bathroom, Yeah. And it's a city, and you can see there was guys that kind of ran the place, you can just tell by where their tents were, and so they had control over it, because that's what happens. Even with the homeless, there's always a leader, and there's always guys
like the shot callers in jail.
Yeah, exactly. exactly, exactly. So I think we're living in the most exciting times ever.
Yeah. I had, I'm actually, so I'd written one book called Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success. I've actually wanted to turn my story into a movie.
Let's do it.
Because I'd love to, because when I'm clean and sober, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'll do anything for you. I have integrity. I will help you. When you put meth in my body, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, I literally lose all my values. I will rob from you. I will steal from you. I will do everything I can. The only two exceptions, I don't rape or murder, but everything else is on the table. It doesn't matter. And I used to say that term, catch me if you can, even before that movie came out. And I used to literally live that lifestyle of living big motels, top of the game. But I was doing it all through check fraud, credit card fraud, all of those things. And I was not the meth user that got paranoid. So anyways, I wrote this book, and the first part of it is Pain, Failure, and Misery. There's 3 parts within the book, and Pain, Failure, and Misery, which is my story. And I've had so many people say that. They're like, dude, you need to make a movie out of this. I have no idea how to do it.
Well, I know how to do it, and we'll do it. I love that idea. I love it, because what see, here's what I found out in my studies. We are eternal beings. When you do the Lord's Prayer and they say at the end, they say forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
They're serious.
Mm-hmm.
They're serious. There's no end, because there was no beginning. We have always been here in spirit and in life, in one form or another. You see, and what we are as humans, we're evolved creatures compared to animals. Compared to insects, we're evolved to the point where we can have a choice of right and wrong. We can distinguish the difference between it. But what's really going on with us and you and everybody else, is that we're here to learn. You see, the physical world is physical, and in a physical world, there's nothing but chaos and physical things happening, explosions. And when you look at the telescope and you see these beautiful stars, what you're really witnessing is this incredible violence of explosions, so bright that we can see hundreds, millions of miles away, light years away.
Yeah.
So and the universe is so vast that no matter how strong a telescope you get, you can never even come close to the end, because there is no end. Mm-hmm. But the opposite and that's what the physical world has. It's a series of opposites. But you can't have one without the other. Mm-hmm. You see, you can't have up without down. Yeah. You can't have right without left. And so what we're experiencing now, we're in the middle of it, and we're just learning, because we don't live forever. And what it is, I liken it to a play or a movie. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Sure.
And that's what our human lives. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to all our lives. Now, all of us are actors, and we're each playing a role to learn. Yep. And you only learn from your mistakes. And so, like you, for instance, you wouldn't be who you are now if it wasn't for what you went through.
Part of the reason I wrote the book too is that, so many people out there, they look at all these drug abusers, these people that are suffering, truly suffering. And they just look at them like, oh, they're just a waste of space. They're useless, this kind of stuff. But the truth is that these are, people that are struggling and suffering, but what they are on drugs is not who they really are. And I mean, and that's kind of the separation that I like to make, is the separation between somebody's behavior and the person. It's interesting with the homeless situation that you're talking about. I'm actually in the process of writing another book, because the first one's published. It's out there, and I can send you a copy if you want.
I love it.
And because I'd
definitely.
love to, like I said, I would love to make my story into a movie. And I think, and again, with that premise too, it's like, this is what you look like when you're loaded, and all of this craziness. But, at some point in time through the movie, I want to be able to show that that's not who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But the other book I'm writing, it's interesting, is I don't have a title yet for it, and I'm only about 30 pages into it, but it's on like perception and how we view things, right?
Yeah.
And the beginning kind of starts with everything looking like this guy's guilty, right? Of killing his
Yeah.
wife, got the knife in his hand, blood all over him. The police, and it's kind of is a black guy, and it's kind of in a racist kind of arena, right?
Sure.
And then I go into one of the greatest ways to show perceptions and alter perceptions is through LSD experiences.
Yeah.
And so I actually tell a couple of personal stories, and it kind of leads into where I'm walking, and I'm tripping big time, and I catch wind of a guy that is the story that I tell in the beginning, right? And I
Yeah.
make up in my head this different story, of him coming home, finding his wife dead, running, and pulls the knife out, and so everything that they saw, the police saw, and everything was that the reality behind the situation, and so it's kind of in that aspect, the premise of like, we don't know their story.
Yeah.
All these homeless people, all these things out there, again, so many people look at them like, oh, they're just dirt bags and stink and all this kind of stuff. But do you really know their story? We don't know what happened to them,
No.
And there could be horrific things they went through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the physical world is to give you a platform to experiment, to learn, to go through these changes. Now, we've had holy books through our whole existence telling us how we should act, how we should behave, if we want to say to be clean and happy and healthy and normal and prosperous. It's all there.
Yeah.
But we all are not on that path. Now, the ones of us that are on that path, no matter what happens, we will, if we stay true to our who we are, we will eventually reach the goals that we're looking at. But what I've learned in my travels and in my spiritual world, because the opposite of everything is nothing. I've come to realize that the spiritual world really is so minute, it doesn't exist except in our minds. It's like what we are. We are pure energy. And the energy, no matter what you do with it, it will change form, but it won't disappear, because it can't disappear. It can lay dormant, but it's always there, and that's who we are. And we have the ability to be conscious about the spiritual world and the physical world. Now, a lot of us, in fact, most of us, are totally unaware of the answers for a lot of reasons, mainly to fulfill your karma, whatever you're out there to learn, and I call it, what I know, what I've been blessed with, the knowledge, I call it spoiler alert. because people ask me, like yourself, like I go on a podcast now and they'll say, how did you attain what you got? You're an actor, you're a director, you're a writer, you're, a success at all this stuff. You live in a nice home in the richest area almost in the world. What brought you here? What did it here? Well, it was all by accident. It was all through faith. You see, I was taught really early about the power of prayer and about the power of the Bible. The power, the knowledge that's in the Bible. And so I've been able to use just a fraction of what I've learned to get what I am now. Now, my job is, and this is what I accepted, is to use that knowledge to further our development as human beings on the planet. Because I once had a conversation with Timothy Leary, and Tim and I became really good friends. Tim is like an old Harvard professor, but
the psilocybin experiments and the
but later on in his life, he liked to call himself a comedian, and we would meet on the road sometimes. I put him in a movie one time, mainly because of Cheech.
I found a real doctor, man.
You want the key?
But Cheech was talking about Tim, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, why don't we put him in the movie? So we put Tim in the movie, and we became lifelong friends. Well, Tim was this Harvard professor that was kind of locked into his intellect. That was his vehicle, his intellect. And so he could figure everything out, And so when he experiment, especially when he experimented with acid, and so Tim, he came to the conclusion that this earth is done with. We got to get on a spaceship. We got to find another earth. And so that was the argument I had with Tim. I said, Tim, we're on a spaceship. This is the perfect spaceship. We're going through space right now, traveling at 1,036 miles an hour. But it's not only a spaceship, but it's a perfect spaceship because you don't need no special suit. You're not crammed in a little compartment, with controls or anything. None of that crap. We're not only in a spaceship, but we're able to explore all these different human, the experiences that only humans can have. And the only thing they ask of you and the holy people in that is to acknowledge, if you want to have a good life, acknowledge who you are and where you acknowledge where the power comes from, you see. And when you do that, all great things will happen to you without doubt. And so with Tim, I mean, as beautiful and as wise as Tim was, he had limitations. And it was human limitations, that you get. I've been lucky enough to believe my early Christian upbringing to the point where then I started looking for more wisdom, because I found out the most powerful prayer is the prayer for wisdom. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. And when you get that in you, then miracles will happen like they're happening to me. But there's a cost. I'm expected now. This is what I feel. I'm expected to use the insights that were given to me to solve these problems that we have, solve the homeless problem, solve the what to do without war. Use my ability now to promote art, simple art. Art is our connection with the Almighty, the Most High. That's how we express ourselves. That's how He expresses Himself through us, is through our art. It could be the art of comedy or writing or or sports or whatever.
Yeah, we all have talents.
Yeah, and it's God-given talent.
Mhm.
That's the key.
Mhm.
That's the key. It's all God-given, and and uh, and and we use it. And the thing is, there's no such thing as bad or wrong. You know, there's no such thing. It looks like Trump, for instance. You know, he tried his best to become a dictator, but
Right.
he had no experience. this guy, you know, he can ruin a wet dream, you know. But in the beginning, I was excited about Trump because I said to myself, what if he really is a builder? What if he really does? If he does have the smarts to get where he is he smart enough to let other experts take care of the problems? You know,
Which he wasn't.
but you would no, not even close. not even. Yeah, all he worried about was how his hair looked.
I know. In golf.
Oh, by the way, golf. I figured out golf is the world religion. Did you realize that?
No.
Think about it. The whole world plays golf to the same rules. There's
Yeah.
no Chinese rules. There's no
Yeah.
Korean rules. There's just golf rules.
Yeah.
And no matter who you are, see, it equalizes everybody. It could be Tiger Woods. It could be the Japanese guy that's winning now, or it could be the white guy. It could be anybody. But we all play by the same rules. I'm a golfer.
Yeah. Even miniature golf.
Yeah, we all play by the same rules. We all use the same regulation ball. We all use the same regulation clubs.
Yeah.
And by the way, golf is the most polite sports out there now. Your Honor. It's when you get to when you won the last hole, you get to tee off first. So Your Honor, it's your honor. You're first. You don't heckle ever. You can't cheat. If you move your ball, even if you move it to the side, that's cheating. And you can be deducted for it. You can't be kicked out, but you can lose the match like this one girl did because she put her ball beside the mark instead of in front of the mark. And golf is so minute in its detail, but yet you still got to hit that ball like 400 yards.
I know.
You know what I mean? And so we use our system, our world, and you can play in the rain. You can't play in the wind or lightning,
hurricanes,
anything like hurricanes. You see, but
or tornadoes.
It's followed. Yeah, it's followed by everybody, from the smallest to the oldest. So it's our only true religion that unites all of us.
Yep.
And I'm so happy to be in it. Now, what I want to do, of course, have golf, international golf tournaments, instead of like they have the Ryder Cup, for instance. The Ryder Cup is all Europeans against Americans, and it's a beautiful thing. If all wars could be like that, if China puts her golf team against our team, okay, you won, so you get to be the leader. You get to tee off first.
Yeah. It'd be safer wars.
Yeah. And by the way, wars. Like they was it Reagan? I think it was started doing space wars.
Yeah. The Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah. Well, intelligence. You don't fight. You study. You learn. You know what I mean? Like if we were to look at just objects or just the appearances of anything, especially in the animal world. You look at the animal world, the elephant looks unbeatable. But yet, what is the elephant afraid of? Tiny little bees and mice. They're scared to death.
Yeah.
You see, there's an equal.
And they could literally just step on it, you know?
Yeah. So what I'm saying, and I was going to get around to this with you, with your problem with meth, was that the reason you went through that is so now you've got a book to write, and you're a spokesman and a savior for the people that are caught in this terrible disease, because that's what addiction is.
Yep.
It's a terrible disease.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and that's where I, have gotten to in life was, because people even ask, they go, if you knew the information you knew now, would you do things differently? And I thought about it. I was like, probably not, because I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be doing what I do if I hadn't gone through it. And I love what I do today,
Yeah.
And
I try to tell people, like we're in school,
Mhm.
you see, and no matter what class you take, I love school, but I only loved certain parts because I didn't understand. I wasn't ready for that dance for mathematics, for instance. Algebra and I just don't see eye to eye. Ever. And I understand chess, but I still it just clogs my brain. I can't do that. On the other hand, I can do a lot of other things,
Sure.
like make people laugh, be social, and everything else,
Yep.
But what I want, we're only on Earth for a relatively short period,
Yeah.
and the more you help others, the more you evolve.
Yep.
And the more you evolve, the more wonders that you discover.
Mm-hmm.
And like love, for instance, like I really believe that the spiritual world is so tiny. It really it's a thought, but there's only love in the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only substance
Mm-hmm.
that works in the spiritual world. In the physical world, there's everything. It's the opposite.
No, love is, I was actually doing a group with my clients today, and I was talking about that, and important, how important love is. Connection. We're social beings,
Yes.
and that's, so when we reach out and we help somebody, we put our hand out, that feels good.
Yeah.
That's the way I always kind of define, like, am I in God's path or away from it? Well, if I do something that feels good, I've got to be moving in the right direction. If it feels bad, I'm probably moving in the wrong direction. And, and
that's why they say, always keep your mind on God. Because the minute you take your mind off God, then it's like what is darkness? Darkness is only the absence of light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so evil is the absence of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because if God's anywhere near anywhere, then there's no evil. There's no discord. There's only harmony. But the minute you leave God out of your life, either by accident or by ignorance. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is ignorance, because you have to go through what you have to go through. You can't go through it knowing what's going on, at the end. You can only do that after you've evolved to the point where, okay, like you have yourself. You mm-hmm. went through that whole thing. Would you go through it again? Probably, it's the same thing. We're all on a path. We're all on the path. And that's why the scripture said the straight and narrow. Mm-hmm. The straight and narrow is the hardest one to get on. Mm-hmm. Why? because it just seems so boring.
Mm-hmm.
But what it is, that's the incentive for our souls to go, okay, let's go explore. Let's go make mistakes. Let's get ourselves in the worst trouble in the world. Then we will appreciate
Yep.
God. We need God then. You see?
I mean, you never know true pleasure unless you've experienced true pain.
Exactly. And by the way, you were talking a little bit about you don't murder and you don't sexual assault. That was off limits to you. Do you know? I figured out that the sexual urge and murder are linked together, and gambling are linked together. And you know what it is? You know what links them together?
With
The drug
compulsion
the drug called adrenaline.
Yeah.
Adrenaline is probably the most powerful drug in our
body?
system.
Yeah.
In our system. And that's why people do dangerous things,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't explain that shot of adrenaline that murderers get. They murder someone and that shot of adrenaline, because what adrenaline is doing, it's the same feeling you get when you stand on the edge of a building and your body's getting ready for death, because you're so close to falling off and falling, say, a few stories, and your body knows instinctively that that's going to be a lot of pain. And so to cover up the pain, your body is filled with this adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you won't feel that pain. It's too much pain to feel.
Yeah.
And it's only for a few moments anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you do get pain, when you do get real pain, and that's why opioids addiction comes into it, is to eliminate the pain that you're feeling. But the truth is, if you're spiritually aware, you don't need adrenaline. You don't need anything. Right. That's for the physical body.
Right.
But when you're spiritually aware and you're spiritually connected, then all of that, you don't need any of it.
Yeah. Because the adrenaline plays into meth too, because, with the meth, and this is worth, and I talk about this in my book, is that, and I got to a place where eventually I came to that realization. My drug of choice was adrenaline, because I actually, and this why this podcast is High Wall Clean, because, again, the highness that we experience really isn't from the drug. It's our own dopamine. It's our own chemicals that we actually get high from.
Yes.
And so when I was doing the meth, that gave me epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, all the feel good, the fight or flight, neurotransmitters, with epinephrine, being the neurotransmitter. As a hormone, we call it adrenaline. But the addiction to the meth gave me that. But what also gave me, and I got highly addicted to, was the crime, because I used to commit probably an average of 10 residential burglaries a night with people being home. I never did, where anybody caught me. I mean, it wasn't like home invasion where I'm tying people up,
No,
but it was an average of like 10 a night. And the adrenaline behind that, you talk about the acting part. And that was kind of another joke that I sort of had with it was, I used to play different roles. And so, I would contact stores, to have things ordered. I'd go in with fake checks, that didn't, some of them didn't even have accurate numbers, but I went in there and I dress in the suit, and I'd have, sometimes I'd be so organized that I would go to like 10 stores and I'd have a different name, a different role, a different company, a different, and I like played these roles, going through this process. And, but that adrenaline, in doing all that stuff was just as difficult to get off of as the meth itself.
Oh, sure, because it made you sharp. And what it is, it's your body knowing that it's in danger, danger of incarceration, danger of being hurt, danger of being shot, danger of, because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do that, and a lot of it too, is the danger of the spiritual harm that you're doing to yourself.
Mhm.
Because that's another danger. Because as eternal beings, we're going to definitely be here in one form or another. But in order to keep evolving, you have to walk the straight and narrow. You have to be on the straight and narrow,
Yeah.
and you can't be cheating people. Because when you cheat people, what you learn is that you're only cheating yourself.
Yeah.
You're only pushing your advancement back. You keep pushing back. It's like pushing in line, and if you wait, by the time you get up to your turn, there's so many wonderful things waiting for you. That's what I learned. See, that's what I learned. I learned that it was better to suffer through, find the good in everything. Find the good, because I grew up in the country, and when you grow up in the country and poor, as soon as you're able to carry something, you got work, you got chores, you got to carry wood, you got to carry water, you got to clean this, you got to brush that, you got to do things that help others, and that's why the country living, and that's why a lot of the country boys are such good athletes. Because they're strong and hardy, and they're used to heavy work and repetition work and everything else, and there's such a cleansing thing with that feeling that is so beautiful. And so what you just said just makes me think, we are actors. And that's exactly what you were doing. You were acting a part. Now you had an epiphany, and probably you got a spiritual shot somewhere, because usually that's what happens.
Absolutely.
Usually you get to the point where they said, "Okay, are you ready?"
Well, that was one of my, in my book, I talk about one of the chapters called "Let's Get Spiritual." Yeah. And I was an atheist, through all of those years, probably because I didn't want to believe that, I was doing the stuff and I had a God that was about to probably wanted to kill me. But that's sort of what happened with me, was that when I got into jail eventually, after being arrested 4 times in 6 months, looking at 15 years in prison, and I got into jail, and I had requested to see a pastor, because I was thinking that, I'd been in and out of recovery for years, and everybody always talks about this God thing, and you need to, spirituality and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And so I met with the pastor, or I put in a request to meet with the pastor. They didn't have a pastor, but they had a priest. And so I went down and I met with this priest, and I told him, I said, I said, I see all these people out here that have this blind faith in something. I said, I don't get it. I said, I don't know why I can't believe in God. I don't know what the deal is with this, and why can't I believe in God? And he says, maybe you're asking the wrong question. And I said, so what's the question? And he's like, exactly. And I was like, what the fuck are you saying, right? And so we kind of kept going back. And then finally I started getting irritated. I was like, dude, I said, what am I supposed to ask? And so he says, all right, let's do this. I want you to pray with me, right? I want you to just say these words. And he says, God, I don't believe in you. This is what he was telling me. He says, God, I don't believe in you, but if you are there, help me find you. And I thought about it, and I was like, damn, I said that. I was thinking, I was like, that's good. I was like, I don't know why I couldn't have thought of that, because that's the perfect question,
Yeah.
And, or statement. And so some things happened at that point in time that, first you kind of question, it's just a coincidence, right? But there were things that just started happening that were just kind of odd. There was a pastor that got arrested, spent the whole weekend with me. I got moved from one cell to another where there was a prayer group. I got moved into a job where I worked at the library. And so all of a sudden I could grab the books that I wanted. And so I mean, there was
But-
just like, and I got a miracle sentence. I mean, that was the amazing part. You know,
Yeah.
I got the most amazing sentence.
Yeah.
And I remember with this prayer group, we were praying, you know, to, you know, give me something that I deserve. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, I don't want anything that I don't, you know, I need consequences, but, you know, to be in line with maybe what my purpose would be in life. I went from 15 years down to 3 years to down to 9 months in county.
There you go.
And actually, when it was 15, it was 7. I did have to sign on a 7-year term, but they suspended it. So as long as I stayed out of trouble. So I did 9 months, which is what you got too. You know, 9 months
Yeah.
in county, and then 6 months in a residential program. When I got out, I had to do a DUI because they threw that stupid charge on me at one point. And then 3 years probation, 7-year prison term, as long as I stayed out of trouble, which I luckily did. And that started moving me in the right direction. You know, it was crazy.
Well, you see what happened. You see, the minute you surrender your ego,
Mhm.
and you let God take over.
Yep.
And that's what's happening.
Yep.
God takes over. Now, people don't realize, you know, that God, we are of God.
Mhm.
You know, it's like the grass growing. Every blade of grass is of God. And if you see patches that are dead and dying and that, it's because lack of water, lack of
Right.
care, or the dog pissed on it or something, you know, something. But all the rest of the grass, every blade is perfect.
Mhm.
It's perfect. It's in God's image.
Mhm.
But you can't have perfect without imperfect.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with you. Now, everything in your life was heading toward this moment.
Yep.
And that's my story too. You know, when I went to prison the last time, I thought it was ridiculous. You know,
Sure.
are they going to really send me to prison for a bong?
Right.
But then, as I got closer, then I started realizing that there were so many little things that said, "There's a reason that you're going to prison."
Sure.
And when I came to grips with that reason, I had one bad half hour in prison. That was all. And that was the night I had to go to bed, and instead of in my nice, comfortable king size
Right.
bed with my gorgeous wife, I'm in a little cot next to the cement wall.
Yeah.
And for a brief second, I started getting a little claustrophobic because I could hear them turning the lock on the big door, and I'm locked in. I'm in prison, and I started to have a little minor freak out. And then I went to my mind went to God, and I felt instant relief. I felt the warmth, that warmth feeling. You know, that feeling that comes over you. It's so warm and it's so beautiful, and everything. And then I went to sleep. I just went to sleep, and I woke up. I'm in jail, but I was so excited after that because I had God with me.
Mhm.
You know, I had that Holy Spirit with me, and not only with me, but it's still with me.
Mhm.
It's so incredible.
Well, I remember this verse, and I don't remember the exact quote on the Bible, but where it talks about, you know, like the calamity or the pain or the things that you go through is, and I'm not saying it the way it is, but sort of the interpretation is that that's how God brings you to him, you know, is through your pain and through your suffering. And I realized that, you know, for me, and I each chapter of my book, with the exception of one, begins with a poem I wrote. And so in the first poem, you know, I actually make a mention that, you know, it was freedom that I found when I was locked up in a jail.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, the first time that I ever felt more freedom than I'd probably felt most of my life was when I was incarcerated, which showed me that freedom is an internal deal, not an external.
Oh, totally.
And it was the first time I laughed I hadn't laughed in years, like laughter when you're on meth is like, kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was getting transferred from one of the jails to another jail. And me and this guy were talking, and I don't remember what we were saying, but I all of a sudden just started laughing. And I laughed so hard, I'm like crying. I mean, like tears are coming down, and I hadn't felt that in years.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, I was like, I
Yeah.
felt so good. That's why, I felt high, high while clean,
Well, you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, nothing higher than to have the God's presence in you and being aware of it. I mean, we always do, but there's a lot of times, like I said, with the light, absence of darkness, the darkness is the absence of light. And I tell people now, I said, you don't have to do any ritual, anything. All you have to do is constantly think of God. That's all. Have God on your mind, on your thoughts. And when you do that, the power, you're plugged into the power, the creative power. And so whatever is a computer, whatever you need, whatever you think you need, whatever answer you need.
Yeah.
Like I lose my phone all the time. I'm at that age. I'm a stoner. I'm 83.
Right.
I put my phone down, and because my mind is so full of things, I can't, keep track of it. The absent, the Einstein with the glasses on his head, looking for his glasses. But what I do when I do lose my phone, I have fun with God. I'll say, okay, God, where's my phone? It appears every time. It is so freaky. Everything is freaky with me now. Now I got I got a very grand plan to make, because I seen what I learned with the Trump insurrection. When he tried to do the insurrection, what he was really doing was shooting a movie. He had no idea that he was doing it. And everybody with a phone was the cameraman.
Yeah.
And that's why we got all this footage. I don't know. They said something like 6 months of footage, some incredible amount of footage of people breaking the law.
Yep.
And not only breaking the law, but breaking the most serious law in America that you could have, which is treason and insurrection. You can't have any worse law. That
that would have used to have been like execution.
That's right. Photograph. They would have taken him out and shot him immediately. Yeah. They photographed themselves. And then the guys, the congressmen and the cops and everything else that were on their side, now they're getting outed. It's so incredible. But I saw the light. We have the capabilities of recording ourselves. Okay. Yeah. So now we can use professionals. This is what I want to do, to edit the movies, to edit the thing. And then look, what do we want? What are we looking for? Are we looking for employment? Are we looking for safety? What are the immigrants when they come from South America? The 1,300-mile march or whatever, carrying kids. What are they running from, and what are they running to? Yeah, they're escaping insecurity and danger and death, and they're running towards security and life. Right. That's what they're doing. What I got an idea of hiring, taking a farm and making it a movie set, and all the workers there are actors, and they get paid for acting, and then they also get paid for doing the labor work. Right. I want to hire professional writers and movie makers to write scenarios, to write bits, because even the most, seemingly honest, best dramas are written, the best comedy. When I was on that 70s show, I didn't ad-lib one line, not one line. In my whole career, I've been ad-libbing all my life. And I got with the 70s show, the writers were too good. I couldn't outdo them what they wrote. And so what I want to do is start showing our problems on screen.
Mhm.
And that way we can look at them and then we can either agree or disagree or whatever, but we'll have a template. We'll have an idea of how we're supposed to act. Because right now, greed. I don't know who I was talking to, but the greed and it's caused our problems with climate change, for instance.
Mhm.
See, it's pure greed. The oil people, they want to keep shoving oil on everybody.
Mhm.
The coal people, they want to keep digging coal. I mean, can you think of any thing more ridiculous than digging into the ground, miles into the ground, to pull up some stuff that you're going to burn?
Yeah. Yeah.
For heat.
We don't even really use much anymore.
No, when we got the sun and the wind
Yeah.
free, it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It's there. And we
Except
just have to adapt.
windmills cause brain cancer.
and dead birds.
Yeah. I wrote a play also.
I want to hear it. I want to read them all, man.
It's very, it was for my clients. I was originally thinking just like you, where I was going to put together, I was thinking like, how do we keep people in treatment? Right. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what, if they're a part of something. And so I actually was talking to them about it, write a play, just like, like the concept of, you need people to, you need the actors, you need a director, you need the people to make the props, you need, all this kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking we have something for everybody. And then I was thinking like, okay, what is something everybody relates to within this in problems? Well, a lot of them were from prison that were involved with like P9, some of the racist prison gangs and stuff. And so I did a part of it's on racism, but substance abuse, suicide, some of the major things we're dealing with. And it's based on the premise of we have like Beelzebub and benefactor, right? The kindly helper, the evil one, within our thoughts, right? Sure. And so I created these metaphorical characters as actual characters, right? And so they sort of lead the people, through their voices and things like that. But I mean, part of it's like very racist, in the dialogue and everything, but the point, and I wrote it originally and I was thinking like, fuck this, I didn't end up doing it with my clients because it was way out there, like really fucked up. I mean, it was really fucked up. And I was even thinking like, man, if people come and see this, how many are going to walk out, during the beginning and actually miss the point of what we're trying to do? And again, there's a powerful ending to the story and there's a reason for it. But it was kind of based on that idea that, and it was in Orange County, of course, Orange County, they don't think racism exists anymore. They think, it's gone and all this stuff. And so, it would have been a very in your face type thing. I'll see if I can find, I still have it. I never did. Maybe I'll send you a copy of that too.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I would love you to read my book. And again, in the very beginning of my book is the Pain, Failure, and Misery, my story. And it's absolutely insane. So, and I always thought like this would be a really good movie to create this into, to show again, the fact that who these people are on drugs is not who they really are, And so, how can we get the transition? We need to stop hating these people. Hate never brings solution. And so if we can start loving these people and caring about these people, and maybe, I end up some of my podcasts and I'll say like, all of you out there that are struggling, that are, I want to just say, I love you, because I know you don't hear that, and I think that that's important, So anyways, yeah. Hey man, I'm very happy you came on here.
Yeah. See, everything's serendipity, everything, because the more I channel my energy toward, making the super movie company, the more people like you pop into my life.
Yeah.
There's that serendipity that we're all connected. We're all connected, and we're all, we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And as far as the people walking out, Don't ever worry about that.
Okay. Okay.
Don't, like when I became a comedian, I started. I realized, like David Chappelle. Have you been following the David Chappelle saga?
A little bit, but not too much.
Okay,
But
well, what happened? David did a special, and he talks about transgender people. Now, his publicist or someone took it negative on purpose. I see it on purpose. And why? To create controversy.
absolutely.
Why? To create interest.
Yep.
Now, people, they'll have to see this, see what Chappelle is doing.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Yeah,
You
that
see what I'm
definitely
saying?
makes it to where people become interested.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
like the South Park guys that did that one play.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I went and saw it. I thought it was great, but
Yeah.
that it bothered a lot to
Oh yeah. And that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's what you want
If
to
you
do.
can get
wanna-
people to feel, then it's worth it.
to get pissed off.
Yeah.
To walk
Yeah.
out. I love that.
Yeah.
That you reached that point, because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
When I was in I shared a cubicle with Jordan Belford, the Wolf of Wall Street, and he's a genius. I mean, he's a he did all those bad, crooked things, with the stock market. And he manipulated him for money, and he is like definitely a criminal. There's no doubt about it. And I helped him write his book, and the way I helped him was that he showed me. I was writing my book, and then he had to show me what a genius he was. And he wrote a couple of pages and handed it to me. He said, "What do you think of that?" And I had to tell him. I said, I really insulted him. I said, "You haven't written shit." He said, "What?" I said, "All you did was copy Tom Wolfe's Bonfires of the Vanity," which he did.
Right.
Which he did. He's got that kind of mind. He could remember everything.
Yeah.
And so he asked me. Then he got real. He says, "Well, what should I write?" And so I told him, I said, "Write those stories you've been telling me every night, and make them the most of." And he said, "What do you mean most of?" I said, "When you get high, you don't just get high. You get higher than anybody ever has done in modern history, because our Bible, the St. James Version, is a good example of the most of, because the whole Bible is full of these stories. They're not just a little bit of things; they're huge. Jesus walking on water, Jesus or Moses dividing the Red Sea. That is the most of.
Yeah.
Did it happen? I doubt it. But the writers, there's no end to how we can write.
Right.
You see,
Absolutely.
and so what I want to emphasize, and I can see it, is that what we're dealing with people with incredible creative energy inside. People like yourself that will take chances. Oh, the hell with that. I want something. I want something that really that's going to do something to me. Even if it's bad or whatever. And then when you come around to finding it, because that in the Bible, what was it? Simon or Peter was a tax collector. He was a horrible guy, And the guy that wrote Amazing Grace, he was a slave ship captain who made a living carrying black people stuffed in the soul of his ship. But when he saw the light, he wrote a song called Amazing Grace. And that's excitement of who we are.
Yep.
Because we're explorers. We're going to go into those dark places. And if we live to tell and tell, then it's our job is to help people that want help.
Yep.
That's the key.
Yep.
If someone says, that's what God does.
Yep.
If you don't need God, then he don't need you.
Yep.
But when you need God, he's there.
Yep.
And that's
Absolutely.
as simple as that.
And that's what I found.
Yeah, that's it. Well, listen, let's stay in touch.
Hey, I want to again Tommy Chong, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate this. I appreciate you because one of the things that I find, you have such a great mind. I like your mind. My wife and I were actually talking about it. She's just like, I love Tommy Chong and the way, the way you think. You're humble, also.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
I've
humble.
done, I know a lot of different people in the entertainment industry. They're not quite as humble, they're much more, and I really like that about you. And I like your thinking and the way you think, and you're about love.
Totally. I've been given so many blessings that the only thing I can do now is give them back, And you know what? One of what before I started into comedy, I was a musician,
Mhm.
and I was the kind of musician. I never said 2 words, never had to. I just played my music, and I was a backup musician. So I wasn't a lead. I wasn't in front. I never had the ego. I was backup. And I when you're playing in the back, you can see what's going on in front, And if your job isn't to be solo, then you can make the soloist even better, doing what you do. And so that's always been my thing. And I never started talking until I had to. And that was when I started acting, and because I started an improv group in a strip club, and I with the actors I had. But when the actor quit, he didn't want to do the job. A buddy of mine, I asked him to do it, and he said, "Well, I'll do it if you do it."
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, they called my bluff, and so I had to go on stage.
Yeah.
But I found out I not only loved it and was good at it, but look what it's brought me. It brought me everything. But again, the secret is I use the God template.
Yep.
I ask, like, find my phone, God. Okay, take me to the top of the mountain.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I'm ready.
Yep. Hey, I want to point something out real quick at the top of my
Okay.
thing. If you see, I found a quote from Tommy Chong. The thing about Cheech and Chong is we've brought more families together than Dr. Phil. Love the quote. And so again, thank everybody for tuning in. Keep getting high, as I always say, but let's do it clean. I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Okay.
See,